Hi, everyone. Welcome to Question Period Rewind. I'm Donna Skelly, Speaker of the Legislative Assembly of Ontario. 1986, what a year. In Toronto, a TTC ride was 45 cents for kids and $1 for adults. Over at Honest Ed's, you could get a pair of pantyhose for 77 cents. And the population of Ontario was about 9 million people. Now, let's see what the hot topics were for the province at that time.
The time has now come for oral questions. The member for Sudbury.
Mr. Speaker, I have a question for the Minister of Industry and Trade. Minister, yesterday your Premier was in Sault Ste. Marie talking about the new ruthless realism that we in the North have to accept, talking about Northerners as being complainers, with his Trudeau-esque expressions. And what I find particularly galling is that he does this after coming from the opening of an auto plant in Alliston. Now, what I would like to know, Minister, is this government, and are you prepared to bring forth very definite incentives that would help to provide auto parts plants in Northern Ontario?
Minister.
Speaker, if the member had been to Sault Ste. Marie and seen the reception that both the Premier and the ministers and we received there, I don't think he'd be making comments like that. We're very well received. This government in the last year and a half has done more for the problems of the North than you ever did in 42 years. The suggestion that you make is one of the things that we were discussing when we were there, and we will be working with the communities of the North to try and assist them in whatever way we can.
Supplementary?
Well, Minister, now that we've seen that the attitude of this government is that Northerners should be obsequious and bow and scrape and kiss the hem of your gown, perhaps you've told us how you expect us to act, especially since you called us, your Premier has called us complainers.
No checks.
Now, what I would like to know from you, I would like an answer to this question. Is it not true that in the North right now, if you go to Thunder Bay, we have Cancar, which is manufacturing. In the Soo, we have steel parts manufacturers. In Sudbury, we have companies that produce all-terrain vehicles and mining machinery. Is it not true that the infrastructure for manufacturing in the North is there now, and will you not give us a commitment that that is going to happen in the future?
Minister.
Speaker, as I mentioned, it was one of the topics that was discussed not only in some of the seminars, but in private meetings that I had and other ministers had with people from the North. It is something that we will be working very hard towards. And I might say again, as to say, you've had 42 years to put that structure into place, and what did you do? We are working on the problem.
Final supplementary.
Well, Minister, not being 42 yet, I would like to say to you, Minister, that that type of answer is not what we're looking for in the North. We want some definite commitments. And, you know, when we hear that really all you're planning right now is another gab fest in Thunder Bay, that really doesn't provide us with much confidence about what your plans are for Northerners. And, you know, when you consider that our unemployment rate in the North has doubled, that we have more and more people coming onto the welfare rolls all the time, and you've been the government for 17 months, and the only thing you can do is go up to the North and hold a gab fest and promise another one in Thunder Bay is hardly any kind of strategy. So what I want to know from you, Minister, is can we count on a strategy from this government for the development of manufacturing in Northern Ontario?
Minister.
I think that the people of the North, and especially all of those that were there, would be very offended by you saying it was a gab fest. I might remind you of the comment of the mayor of the Soo about halfway through the second morning's meeting when he said, "We are very pleased that you are here in the Sioux and having this conference here, and we hope that you have more of them throughout the North because they are of a high regard." I can tell you that not only this meeting, but in other things that we have held throughout the North, that we are working on problems that you left for this government to deal with.
On a point of privilege.
A point of
The point
point
is
of
this.
privilege.
Yes, a point of privilege. I feel that he's cast aspersion on the mayors of this province. Mayors always make those kinds of remarks.
Order. Order. A point of order. The member for Nickel Belt.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You may wish to reclassify it as a point of information, but I do think I heard the member from Sudbury say that he was not yet 42. I wonder if he'd be prepared to table his...
Order. Order. With respect, it's really question period. Order. Order. New question, the member for Nipissing.
Okay,
I was 39 once.
especially you, Dave.
You got underwear older than 39.
Mr. Speaker, to the Minister of Trade, Technology, and whatever else he is, I'd simply like to observe that Northerners in this province are faced with a government which lacks both the ideas and the intestinal fortitude needed to help secure their place in the sun and to help secure their future. The Minister has told us on another occasion that his position is the Premier's position.
Yeah, prone.
Do you agree with the Premier's view that the people of the North are looking for someone else to blame for their problems, with the insinuation that our Northern citizens are nothing but whiners and complainers?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, again, if you as a Northern member had been at that conference, I think that you would have gotten something out of it, because the people that were there certainly appreciated us being there, and the dialogue that went back and forth will help to solve some of those problems that North have.
Supplementary.
The Minister will know that the Premier said he's trying to get rid of the notion that everywhere he goes he's dripping with checks. He also knows that just 2 days ago the Treasurer told this House that, as we predicted, he's found himself dripping with about $400 million to spend. And you know, you lose credibility in Northern Ontario when the Premier's prepared to drip $17.3 million on Abe Schwartz for a project in Toronto's harbour front. Hardly, the last time I looked, an economically depressed area. Northerners have told you. Northerners, you've shrugged your shoulders up there. You said you were there to listen. Northerners have told you how you can help. Why won't you? And you've heard this over the past year and a half. You heard it when you were up there. Why won't you implement some of the ideas that the member from Sudbury gave you today? Why won't you correct unfair gas prices? Why won't you stop the tax introduction on the trucking industry? Why won't you work on four-laning Highway 17, 11, 69
Minister?
to access the North?
Minister?
Why won't you eliminate the mining
Order.
tax? Why won't you establish flow-through shares?
Order. 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 Minister.
Some of those things were matters that were discussed, and I might say to you that we maybe have heard some of those for the last year and a half, but you heard them for many more years than we ever did.
You heard him for 42 years.
You know,
For 42 years.
you know, maybe we should be telling.
Where were you for 42 years? Where were you
Minister?
for 42 years?
Maybe we should be telling you about the $25.3 million we put in through NODC. Maybe we should be telling you about the millions of dollars that we poured in through the Northern Development Fund. Maybe we should tell you about some of the things that the Treasurer mentioned to you yesterday, like we have been working for the North and working hard for them, and will continue to do so.
Maybe you
Final
should, and they were all,
supplementary.
maybe you should, and they were all good programs, and they were all good programs brought in by this government, and they were all good in their day, but times have changed in the past year and a half. The government has said,
Final supplementary.
and not for the better in the North. The government has said the people of the North should not expect made-in-Toronto solutions. Well, apparently they can expect made-in-Toronto reports, made-in-Toronto conferences, made-in-Toronto press releases, and made-in-Toronto printers. Can you explain to us why your ministry was unable to find a Northern Ontario consultant to write his report, a Northern Ontario printer to print the report, why you were unable to expect the people of the North, or you still expect the people of the North to live
Minister.
with made-in-Toronto problems,
Minister.
and I might add, to live with a made-in-Toronto government.
Yes, 42 years, that's right. That's right. Speaker, the report itself has certainly generated some comments, and some of those comments were good and some of them were bad. The firm was very high qualified and came to us in that regard. I would say to you, some of the things you mentioned, though, are things that we will look into.
New question, the member for Algoma.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we're not going to get directly involved in a debate between the Liberals and the Tories as to who has the less policy for Northern Ontario. I'd like to ask a question directly related to what the Premier said yesterday in Northern Ontario. Yesterday, the Premier gave a wrap-up speech to the conference in which he told delegates he could not find a consensus. He did not know the solutions to how to deal with the weaknesses of the Northern economy, and that Northerners would have to provide their own solutions and find their own way to become competitive. Can the Premier and the Minister of Northern Development and Mines explain to the House what steps specifically this government is prepared to take to stimulate investment in Northern Ontario?
Premier.
I know my honourable friend was at the conference, and I appreciate his attendance, and I wish my colleagues opposite had availed themselves of the opportunity to share their views, their very positive views of the situation and their specific situations. Now, I was delighted you were there to share the airtime and squawk and fuss, and I want to say to my honourable friend opposite that we invited you, we invited our colleagues opposite, the federal members of Parliament, and we wanted a full and frank dialogue, and we're very happy to have you make your contributions, whether people have listened or not. Now, that being said, I have a number of suggestions. You'll know, for example, of the new Venture Small Business program that there's been a substantial... Well, it has been working. You know, my honourable friend is critical. My honourable friend is critical, and he's entitled to be so. But he's very much aware of a number of programs that have been implemented in the last year. I'm talking about major infusions into the post-secondary institutions there, a substantial upgrading in a number of areas. He'll be aware of dramatic improvements in the Northern Development Funds. He'll be aware of major increases in tourism and plans in those particular areas. Now, I'm sure my honourable friend will be the first to stand in this House, knowledgeable as he is of these things, and say this is a government that is working hard to solve the problems of Northern Ontario. Now, let me just take you back a moment, and I would ask my friend not to oversimplify some of the complex problems that we're facing. I think we have started to establish a significant dialogue, and I tell my honourable friend that we announced a very significant new approach with respect to timber management and to allocation of wood resources and to the land policy. As you will be aware, we've started that dialogue with the Northern Development Councils, and indeed we are looking forward to working with the people of the North. Now, let me just make one other point, if I may, Mr. Speaker. If
Very
I'm going on
briefly.
too long, well, I'll do it in the supplementary, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Supplementary.
Well, Mr. Speaker, with the announcement of the Ventures program was the only positive press the Premier got out of the conference. Can the Premier indicate, since he made such a to-do of the need for an entrepreneurial spirit to assist the northern economy to thrive, what he is doing to respond specifically to the demand of the entrepreneurs at the conference for government leadership to provide the capital needed in Northern Ontario and the infrastructure needed in the north so that we can have results such as the results he was at Alliston before he came to Sault Ste. Marie.
Premier.
I hope that you wouldn't be against what transpired in Alice the other day, but you make a comment, you suggest that you're somewhat resentful about the press, or I know my honourable friend flew into town and made a few nasty noises and then flew out of town, and your whole object was there, I guess, to control the airways. You see, I don't judge my life in terms of positive press or negative press. You see, I don't have that preoccupation that my honourable friend has. You see, if you do the right thing, life will take care of itself, and I just pass that on to my honourable friend opposite. Now, I say to you that there was wide consultation there, and you could hear it from a number of very thoughtful spokesmen who came from a wide variety of different experiences and backgrounds, that we have to develop more entrepreneurialism in Northern Ontario. You heard it from the educational group, you heard it from the small business group, you even heard it from a number of labor leaders who are looking to develop the spirit to create some of their own problems. I mean, you can't have it both ways. You can't come down here and say, well, you can't have direction from Toronto, you can't have direction from Queen's Park, and the other hand go back there and say, we don't want solutions from the South. What we have taken is a very cooperative view. I believe, and I'm sure my honourable friend wouldn't share this view, that the links that we have established, the faith that we have established in the last little while is very constructive. Now, I know you don't agree, but your whole object was to go there, cause a fuss, get your face on television, and go out of there. And that's okay. And you know what? I'm going to invite you next year, and the year after, and the year after that, to do the very same thing.
Final supplementary.
Positive role.
Final supplementary.
Mr. Speaker, it was the New Democrats who proposed a program for development in the north, and there was nothing from this government, and I'm afraid that that's all we're going to get is invitations to conferences next year and the year after and the year after, and nothing will ever happen in Northern Ontario.
We'll invite you to
Mr. Speaker, the Premier was chastised by the tourist outfitters as well as organized labor at the conference. He said that there was a need for more consultative mechanisms, and he promised a meeting again next year in Thunder Bay. When is this government going to show real leadership and provide the financial resources from the so-called Treasury surplus that was announced in the House here on Monday, that we can have some real development in Northern Ontario?
Premier.
You say I was chastised by some of your friends, and you're right. I get chastised by everybody, including you. And you say you put forward a program. I saw the program you put forward, 10 skinny little points, recycled stuff that had been gone through many reincarnations around here. There's nothing particular new in what you've said. We've seen it all before, and we've heard your speeches on many occasions. And believe me, anytime you have a positive or constructive idea, I am delighted to have you share it with this House, and I'm even delighted to implement it. But one of the differences between opposition and government is that government has a responsibility, and sometimes we see that isn't the case with the opposition. I can tell you we've implemented a number of funds. You know already that the Northern Development Funds have been doubled for last year, that significant new programs have gone into place. Look at what's happened in Searchmount. Why don't you stand up and give this government credit for this, for the cooperative effort we've done with the citizens of Sault Ste. Marie in building a major new destination resort? Why, and I just give you one example of many things that have happened. New program for tourism, for roads, and a lot of others. And as much as you gentlemen there and opposite would like to stand up and be nasty and negative about these things, and I understand all that, I can tell you my sense is, and as you know, I've been in Northern Ontario a substantial amount, not as much as my honourable friend, but I'm in the process of learning a great deal. that the people there are manifesting some faith in this government to work together with them to solve their problems. Now, you may judge me inaccurate in that assessment, but I don't think that's inaccurate.
New question? New question, the member for Port Arthur.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to place a question to the Minister of Mines and Northern Development. Every time someone at the conference in Sault Ste. Marie, whether it was Leo Gerard from the Steelworkers, or a New Democrat, or a tourist operator, or a town councillor, made either a substantive criticism or a substantive suggestion, you turned it aside just as you did today with a quip or a joke. The North's economy is not a joke. You're a joke. I would like to ask you, you're the joke. I would like to ask you, exactly how are you and your government willing to help Northerners to rebuild and control their own economy?
Premier?
Well, I say to my honourable friend, who usually does not indulge in that kind of remarks, that I think the remark you just made is completely inappropriate and inaccurate. If you're a gentleman, you'll stand up and apologize. Completely inaccurate. We were gathering a number of ideas, and as I said to you, and I think you've answered your own question, we have shown a genuine partnership in working together with people of Northern Ontario. I think you've seen that good faith in the past. We have responded in very specific ways to suggestions that have come from there, as well as putting forward a number of suggestions from here, and real programs. Apart from my friend opposite's program of assisting in northern travel, which came in for OHIP, which came a year or so ago. But look what's happened with respect to the universities, the colleges, the infrastructure. My honourable friend, I'm sure, wants, in fairness, to stand up and recognize some of the progress that has been made in the last little while, and not put this on a personal level.
Supplementary.
Mr. Speaker, I say to the Minister of Mines and Northern Development, it is your responsibility to show the leadership that is necessary to help the Northerners rebuild their economy. And I want to say to you, today and yesterday and the day before, you did not say one substantial thing that would help them rebuild their economy. Your ambassador, your economic ambassador in Northern Ontario, Bob Rosehart, said, one thing is clear, there is a central role of leadership for the government to play in the development of the North. Are you willing to establish a true Northern Ontario diversification fund for the economy managed by Northerners so they can control their economic destiny and rebuild the future for their children?
Mr. Speaker, I say to my honourable friend opposite that I would disagree fundamentally with your analysis. And indeed, there are many people there, perhaps a little more objective than you, that think that this government is providing that leadership in a particular way. When we are soliciting advice and the consultation of people in Northern Ontario, on one hand, if we do things from here, you criticize us for that. If we don't consult people in the North, you criticize us for that. I mean, you want it both ways. And I think that you, my honourable friend, owes it to this House and to the people of the North to be very frank and forthcoming about the things that have actually happened and the things that are happening at the present time. And you, above all, should know those facts.
Final supplementary.
Say to the Minister of Mines and Northern Development, who happens also to be the Premier, all Northerners want, all Northerners ask for, is a fair share of the buoyancy of the economy of the province as a whole. That's all we're asking. We're asking for the provincial government to show the leadership, to give us the tools to do the job so that we can rebuild the economy that you and your predecessors have allowed to be destroyed.
Question.
Would you be willing to sit down with workers, with company executives, with community leaders in every single industry town that is vulnerable to the shifts of the worldwide market, and so that they can devise planning agreements with your cooperation to diversify their economies and to plan the future of those single industry towns? To do that one thing.
my friend, has been what we've been doing that. And we're in the process of doing that all along the way. And responding, well, I can tell you, yes, I was in Terrace Bay, and I was in Long Lac, and I was in Akina, and we are working development programs and a variety of other things. There's a lot of things that are going on perhaps my honourable friend is unaware of. Now, I understand your Churchillian intonation to give them the tools and they will do the job. You were listening to some of my speeches, because I can tell you we've responded, I think, in every way that when we've been asked for assistance, we've tried to be forthcoming, and I think we have been, and I think my honourable friend will have to admit that. I mean, you want it both ways. You want us to sit here and predict all the solutions, and then on the other hand, give them the tools to do the job. We're working with them in cooperative ways. We have created Northern Development Councils, as you will be aware. People are very enthusiastic about the input. Well, my honourable friend has certain biases. But if you listen to the mayors, my honourable friend opposite doesn't have much respect for the mayors of Northern Ontario, but I can tell you I do. And Mr. Fratesi, His Worship, Mayor Fratesi, talking on their behalf, was talking optimistically about the new spirit of cooperation, about the jobs that have gone north, the diversification of this government, the real commitment to Northern Ontario. And I think my honourable friend opposite's remarks today are born out of some personal insecurity.
New question. New question. Point of order.
Point is that he's made a remark, he's impugned motives about my references to the mayors, and what I said was that the mayors of Ontario, whenever ministers do show up, they do come forward and they treat everybody politely.
All right. Order. 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 I listened very carefully. There was some reference. I'll ask the Premier if he wishes to reconsider his reference in. Order. 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 I appreciate that, and I. Order. I was listening to try to hear what was being said. I'll have a look at it. New question. Order. It would be very nice. It would be very nice if we could hear what's taking place in the legislature. Order. New question, the member for York Centre.
Mr. Speaker, I have a question for the Attorney General on a matter that was raised yesterday by our leader. It's given him 24 hours to think of an answer because it's much the same question. The question has to do with the Bertha Jorgensen report of criminal abuse of the elderly, a report that's been in the hands of officials of your ministry for over 6 months, and also in the hands of the Ministry of Health for over 6 months. And in the light of this massive evidence that's there and the massive lack of inaction, the lack of action by people within your ministry, are you forthcoming with some action to be taken for an immediate review of the respective opportunity to do something to help the people of our province?
Minister.
Speaker, I'm grateful for this question. I've made inquiries. And first of all, a press release issued by the Leader of the Opposition refers to this as the Jorgensen report as a secret report. It was a report that was made available to every student in the bar admission course and every person who attended the series of public lectures that were given by the Law Society of Upper Canada. A representative of my ministry, along with hundreds of other people in Toronto, received a copy at the time. I've now read the report.
To the seniors in Ontario.
I've now read the report, and the report makes 2 points. The first point that the report makes is Dr. Jorgensen's concern that if it comes to the attention of persons, relatives or others, that criminal offenses have been committed or may have been committed, Dr. Jorgensen says that should be reported immediately to the police. We agree with that. There's no point of dispute with that. The second point she makes with reference to some old cases, some of which are 5 years old, is that those cases were reported to concerned friends on a confidential basis and did not go to the police as they should have. I agree with her comment on that. There is nothing in the report apart from that. Now, on Monday, the Minister of Health asked the Solicitor General if he would conduct, or if he would direct the Ontario Provincial Police to conduct an investigation. The Solicitor General said he would, and my ministry offered any legal assistance that might be required in that exercise. So that's the whole story. The report has been public for 6 months. We agree with the points.
Supplementary. Supplementary.
You know, it takes...
Supplementary.
Read it, please. What's it on, 3? Is it on 3?
Right.
Laurie, what's your scale? Is it 3?
Order. 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 Remind all galleries that it's out of order for any demonstrations of any sort. Order. Supplementary, the member for York Centre.
The rating of your question, as given by others, is 2.2 from the Star and 3 from the Sun. And out of 100, that means you're not going to go far. It's taken 6 months for the Honourable Minister to come up with an answer to help our seniors and to show some concern. It wouldn't have happened if our leader hadn't have raised the question. It wouldn't have happened unless the crisis had become real. Why don't you...
You know about this 6 months ago, Ronnie? What did you...
Order. 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 New question.
Mr. Speaker,
Order.
I was beginning the question.
Order.
I said, why don't you?
Order.
And I just want to finish it.
Order. I said new. Order. No.
He should
New
answer
question.
it. It's zero on that one.
Punishing him because
New
of the press gallery.
order.
Oh, come on.
New question. The member for Sault Ste. Marie. Point of order.
Mr. Speaker, there may have been interjections. I don't know why you feel that interjections by others is some reason why you should cut off the questioner. He had about 15 seconds into the question.
Order.
He allowed the...
Order. 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 New question. The member for Sault Ste. Marie.
Mr. Speaker, I have a specific question for the Premier about the workers in Sault Ste. Marie and Wawa whose jobs are now threatened by the freight rate confrontation between Algoma Steel and the Algoma Central Railway. These companies have asked for a $5 million government assistance program from both governments at the same time as they're asking for wage concessions and threatening closure of their operations. The Premier has had the opportunity the last 2 days in the Soo to discuss this issue, at least with the company officials. I'd like to know if the Premier could now give us as an essential condition of any provincial government financial assistance, his assurances that you will insist on long-term job guarantees for the workers at the ACR and at the mines in Wawa as a condition of any financial assistance that you provide. Is that the kind of positive action we need?
Sure. The honourable member last week was proposing that I buy the railroad, so I'm interested in his new ideas that he has.
Order.
You know that there are discussions ongoing between the various parties, including the federal government. I read the other day that they are prepared to participate in these discussions, and I view that to be a step forward. I can tell my honourable friend that there are no conclusions to that. There was, as I understand it, an erroneous press report that Wawa was going to close down. That is not anyone's decision, to the best of my knowledge. We are going to do everything we can to keep that mine open. Discussions are ongoing, and I'm not in a position to report to my honourable friend what the results of those discussions will be. But I did say this, and perhaps I can do it in the supplementary, Mr. Speaker, if I'm talking too long. I did say to the people there, and I'm sure you heard me, unless you were one of those ones that came to the conference, complained it wasn't long enough, and then left early. I'm not sure if you were one of those or not. But if you were, I did say that it is my view that we have to bring a more cooperative attitude in Northern Ontario between the various players, and I am hopeful that the various interested parties will get together and come with a proposal, and we're prepared to assist.
Supplementary.
Mr. Premier, if you would, if someone in your ministry had informed you, I was one of the ones that lasted and stayed beyond yourself at the conference. So I certainly did not leave early. I don't know about your cabinet ministers, but I did not leave early.
You may get an apology.
Mr. Premier, the question was on the issue of job guarantees. One of the things that we have to insist on when we provide government assistance to corporations who are asking for such assistance to keep their operations going is that we get job guarantees and that the workers have assurances that they have a long-term future with those operations. Are you going to insist on job guarantees for the ACR and the Algoma Steel workers at Wawa before the provincial government participates in any program to assist with the freight rate problem facing those companies?
Great question. I apologize to my honourable friend opposite. I think you're quite right. You were there. It was your leader that came into town, said the conference wasn't long enough, and then left before it was over. I apologize to my honourable friend for that. Now, as you know, one of the things that's being suggested now, if there isn't some kind of agreement made, is that the mine could be closed down. I'm not suggesting that's right, but I am suggesting that's some of the discussion going on at the moment. Obviously, our concern is to guarantee those jobs in Wawa, at Algoma, and the ACR as well. And there is a very serious interconnection between all of them. I'm not sure what my honourable friend is asking me to do in terms of what kind of job guarantees, for how long, what period of time, and what levels. But I can tell you, obviously, that will be the principal concern of our involvement. There's no other point in getting involved in the discussions other than to protect those jobs on an ongoing basis. That will be our concern, and I will discuss this with my honourable friend as it goes along. The discussions, as he knows, are at a somewhat at a tentative stage. It's something that concerns everyone who cares about the Sioux, but there is not a resolution.
New question. The member for York Centre.
Well, you know, Mr. Speaker, the Attorney General has decided not to answer a question, and fortunately we've given him a rating of very next to nothing. I'd like to give the Honourable Minister for Seniors to have a try at it, because we're talking about an important report on criminal injustices, on abuses that are going on within seniors' institutions within our province. Nothing was done in the Attorney General's Department. Nothing's been done in the Ministry of Health. What have you done about this for 6 months?
Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the member will realize that as a minister without portfolio for seniors affairs, my role is that of a coordinator of and developer of new plans and new activity, which is long overdue, I might add. And much of our work was presented to the House in the form of a new agenda, white paper, back in June, and I'm pleased to report to the member that we are now working on the implementation of that new agenda.
Supplementary.
I regret that it would seem that the minister hasn't even read the report, let alone seen it. And what we're hearing now is just an example and proof that there is something that should be done and hasn't been done. Would you support some kind of advocacy center or some kind of support group to watch over the needs and cares of seniors, to start something real?
Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I made reference to the white paper, which is a policy paper, a very definite statement of the government's intention to act. And if the honourable member had taken the time to read that, Mr. Speaker, he would see that on page 17 there is a very definite reference to a very large piece of work, a major piece of work, that I and my colleagues are undertaking. Part of that piece of work, Mr. Speaker, will address itself to the theme of rights of people in institutions, either rest homes, nursing homes, homes for the aged, or whatever.
New question, the member for Nickel Belt.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a question for the Minister of Industry, Trade and Technology concerning the Conference on Northern Competitiveness. Could the Minister tell us why he allowed that conference to go on without any reference to the 15% duty that the United States is imposing on softwood lumber? Even the consultants admitted that forestry was a key component of the northern economy. How could you let that issue not be dealt with during that entire conference?
Minister?
I think that the member should be aware, if he's not, that one of the writers of that report, one of the people, dealt with the lumber issue in quite some detail on the first afternoon.
Well,
order. Supplementary.
Speaker, I'm truly puzzled by the minister's response, because that issue was never dealt with at the entire conference. Did the minister allow that to happen because of the sense that he was a willing accomplice to the fact that the federal government admitted the 10% deficiency and agreed to that ahead of time? Is that why the minister allowed a conference on northern competitiveness to happen without ever dealing with the 15% tariff? And if not, could the minister tell also, when he's responding, could he tell us just what he intends to do now about that 15% tariff?
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, as I mentioned, one of the panelists dealt with the lumber issue in general, and also there were questions in some of the workshops that dealt with the problem of the 15%. I would tell the member that meetings are ongoing concerning that 15% levy. As late as yesterday, officials were meeting in Ottawa, and the Minister of Natural Resources will be going to Washington tomorrow on this same issue.
New question. Member for Sudbury.
Mr. Speaker, I have a question for the Minister of Housing. Minister, I'd like to take you back to last Thursday's Resource Development Committee meeting, wherein you told the committee that you'd met with the Association of Municipalities of Ontario and that they were, quote, satisfied with the kinds of arrangements you'd made with regard to municipal enforcement of maintenance standards and so forth. And when questioned by Mr. Pierce, a member of that committee, as to whether you were happy with it, and they were happy, you indicated yes. Now, we have talked to the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, and they refute that. They say they have very serious reservations about sections 14 and 15. Now, I'd like to ask the minister, will the minister tell the House how it is that he attributes one reply to AMO, and they attribute another reply, being that, no, they're not happy?
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, I could refresh the honourable member's memory here. When I was asked in the Resource and Development Committee if I had met with the AMO, I reported that I had met with the AMO executive, and that I presented to them the section 14 and 15 of the rent review bill 51, and I had also expressed to you in that committee that the AMO executive had indicated their concerns and had raised their concerns about that, some sections of it. I did not say to you that they were happy in entirety about it.
Supplementary.
Speaker, I have here the minutes of the Resource Development Committee, which I can send over to the minister, which I'd like him to read. But that answer does not jibe with the facts that are in this particular minute from the Resource Development Committee. And so I'd like to ask you, Minister, will the minister tell the House what steps he is going to take to be better informed on matters such as this? And is he going to take certain steps to be more accurate? Because as you know, Minister, in the committee, it's a matter of trust and it's a matter of questions and answers. So are you going to be more accurate and better informed?
Minister?
When?
Mr. Speaker, just to make the record clear, of course we need the cooperation of the opposition and all the members in the committee. We need the cooperation of all the mayors across the province, and we will be promoting a very extensive campaign of our bill as soon as it is passed through, that we can get to make that law one of the most effective bills that this House has ever seen. It is unfortunate if you got the impression that I got the full endorsement of Section 14 and 15 of the bill in that. I'd like again to indicate, Mr. Speaker, that I stated to the AMO executive the section of the bill, and they have indicated to me some concerns, and I told them that we will take that into consideration and present it to the committee when we go by clause by clause.
New question, the member for Sudbury East.
I have a question of the Premier. I was at the conference, Mr. Premier. You realize we've been in the North, we've been investigated, scrutinized, analyzed, dissected, and studied to death. There are enough studies to fill your office. What is lacking is a commitment. I have a question on jobs. You talked to your friend Jesse James last week or the week before about the layoff at Falconbridge. Can you tell us the results of that discussion you had with Mr. James and the loss of 275 jobs in Sudbury?
Premier?
Again, Mr. Speaker, I did have a meeting with, I believe his name was Bill James, the president of Falconbridge. Well, I'm just passing it on. My friend needs to be corrected. He's standing in this House saying he's been analyzed. Is that what you're saying? Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize to my honorable friend. I apologize to my honorable friend. Sometimes I have hearing problems over on this side of the House. Yes, I had quite a discussion with Mr. James, and he pointed out the price of nickel and some of the problems there, as my honorable friend will be aware. I did say to Mr. James that I believe that the problem is serious in terms of the repercussions for the community. You're aware, I am sure, of some of the plans that have been talked about publicly with Falconbridge. I told him it presents to me some very serious problems to see those layoffs. He made the point that the Kidd Creek operation was independent of the Sudbury operation. I know my honorable friend won't agree with that. I'm just reporting his particular conversation to me when I met last. I told him our obvious concern as a government is to see the employment levels maintained and indeed increase as much as possible. As you know, he was not able to give me things that absolute certainty what those employment levels will be, given the price of nickel and some of the marginal nature of some of the ore bodies that he's mining at the moment. I'm sure my honorable friend has heard all of this, and I'm sure at the same time he isn't satisfied with some of that. What I did say to Mr. James is I think he has a responsibility to explain that position to the community, to the workers particularly, so that they have a very clear view of what Falconbridge's plans are in the long term in the Sudbury Basin area.
Supplementary.
Well, since the company intends to proceed with the layoffs anyway, those who took early retirement plus those who they're going to let go anyway, I'd like to know what action this government intends to take to make sure that that doesn't occur, at least until not even at least. We have to get out all of the facts. And what are you prepared to do to make sure? Because I'll tell you, Jesse can bamboozle anybody with words, not necessarily always factual.
Premier?
I've met Mr. James before, and I've run into a lot of smooth talkers in my life. I consider you one of them. And I, let me just say, you and let me say to my honorable friend, you and Bill James are a real match for each other, and I'm not sure who I'd bet on if you went toe-to-toe. But I did say to Mr. James, and I say to you, that I believe the company owes a frank explanation to the community from which it has extracted so much in the last many years. I think he has taken my advice to heart, and I'm hoping that that will be forthcoming in the very near future. He told me he was going somewhere for a week or so on a business trip, and I'm hoping that will be a result therefrom. He tells me that he's had many conversations with you, and he happens to like you very much, as a matter of fact. As I said, you're two of a kind, the two of you, and I'm hoping that there's a arrange a forum where you can put in a very frank and open way your particular concerns to him, and he can address them. You're asking me if I'm going to bring in legislation to prevent that from happening. I'm not in a position to say that at the moment, but our job is to work with that company and the workers to try to maintain those jobs.
New question, the member for York Centre.
Mr. Speaker, for the Minister of Community and Social Services, the people of Ontario will not forget Drina Joubert and her plight and the plight of thousands like her. On February 25th, 1986, a coroner's jury investigating the death of this lady cited her reason of death to be exposure, I'm quoting from the ruling, exposure, accident caused by alcoholism, mental illness and homelessness, and failure of our support system to deal with these problems. How many more Drina Jouberts will become victims of an inadequate social service network this winter?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I would remind the honourable member that Drina Joubert had in fact available to her living accommodations on that night, not just in the hostel system, but in fact an apartment of her own, which was available to her. And so it wasn't the lack of availability, but put that aside. One of the recommendations of the coroner's inquiry was that more permanent housing should be made available. A beginning has already been made on that. The member will probably be aware of the fact that Street Haven, run by Peggy Walpole, has now established a second home right next door to where they are now for longer-term shelter accommodations. The member will also be aware of the fact, because I responded to another question earlier, that Habitat Services, which is a joint venture between the municipality, the Ministry of Health, and my ministry, which will provide longer-term shelter for ex-psychiatric patients with some of the same kinds of problems that Drina Joubert had, has now been established and will be operational within a very, very short period of time, whereby people will have a placement service, they'll have an ongoing case management service, and they will have an increase in their benefits from my ministry, so that in fact the operators of the homes can afford to provide a greater range of services. I think we have made a beginning.
Supplementary. The member for Simcoe Centre.
Supplementary, Mr. Speaker, to the Minister. Mr. Minister, in addition to the woman in Barrie who last week gave her children to the Children's Aid Society so she could seek housing, I'm now aware of a family with 3 children. The father and son are living in a house with no heat this time of year, and they're facing eviction within 10 days. The mother and 2 children are living elsewhere. Mr. Minister, the housing predicament for the needy is reaching a crisis situation in Barrie. Will you give us the assurance that your staff will at the very least investigate this crisis and attempt to offer some sort of solution to these people that are in so much need right now?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, most certainly my office in Barrie is available at any time, and the member well knows that, because we provided an information service both to him and to his staff as to the services that are available. Anyone in your community, including yourself, would have to do would be to contact the office and have a case manager to go out and take a look at the services. If there is a need which is met by my ministry, we will most certainly help. In terms of shelter, as you know, my ministry is responsible for emergency shelter. They work very closely with the municipality, and most certainly, in terms of the question, we will give whatever assistance we can, immediately.
New question, the member for Windsor at Riverside.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the absence of the Minister of Health, I'd like to ask the Premier a question. I'd like to ask the Premier, in view of the statement that was released yesterday by the Ontario Medical Association and comments by Dr. Peachy in the papers this morning, whereby he says he considers it legitimate for a doctor to charge a patient for being available, whether or not the patient calls a doctor. In other words, that standby fees are in line with the OMA statement of yesterday. Can the Premier indicate whether, in his opinion, it is legal to have a $500 standby fee that obstetricians have here in the City of Toronto?
Premier?
Sure. The Honourable Minister told me to tell you that he regrets he couldn't be here today. I understand he's attending a meeting with his peers, I believe, in Ottawa across the country. He did issue a statement yesterday, as I understand it, expressing some concerns about what has transpired, and I understand he will be meeting with the OMA on that particular issue, and I'm sure would be very happy to report back to the Honourable Member.
Supplementary?
Mr. Premier, it's now been several months since the Minister of Health first met with the College of Physicians and Surgeons. He has met with the OMA in the past, and yesterday we were supposed to get clarification of what the OMA considered to be appropriate and what it did not. In the Minister's statement yesterday, he says, and I quote, "While it is true that billing for uninsured services is not a new practice, I have some reservations about the OMA's guidelines contained in its letter." Now, if the Minister, after several months, still has reservations, I'd like to ask the Premier, when is your government going to pass legislation to give it the enabling power to control these types of rip-offs that doctors are instituting in the province of Ontario?
As I told you just a moment ago, the Honourable Minister will be discussing this matter with the OMA and the particular letter which was supposed to clarify the issue. It may have clarified it in some minds, but I know the Minister has some concerns, and as I said, he would report back to you on that matter.
New question, the member for Cambridge.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I have a question for the Minister of Industry, Trade and Technology, and it's with regard to his ministry's field office in the Kitchener area and the reorganization of it. I understand that the director of the Kitchener office plus 2 business consultants are being moved to Hamilton, and I understand further that other staff is perhaps being moved to London at a time when the industrial expansion in the cities of Kitchener, Waterloo, Guelph, Cambridge, and the entire area is booming, literally booming. Could the Minister please explain to me why he is reducing the ministry's presence in this community, in our community, and threatening the economic well-being of the fastest-growing region in all of Canada?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, to the member, I discussed that same issue with my officials as late as last evening, and I can assure you that no definite decision has been made yet, and if a decision is made in that regard, I will make sure that the same coverage, if not better coverage, is received by the people in that area.
Hear, hear. Supplementary?
If change is necessary, or if change in fact is even being discussed, I wonder if you could tell me whether you've discussed it with the member from Kitchener, the member from Kitchener-Wilmot, in fact, your own small business advocate from Wellington South. Have you discussed it with them prior to making a decision, or perhaps advising the staff and the whole region that this is going to happen?
Minister?
Yes, those concerns have been made known to me by the members that you mentioned, and I might say, as I say, I will make sure that the same coverage, if not better coverage, is maintained for that area, but no definite decision has been made yet on the issue.
New question, the member for Lake Nipigon.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. I have a question for the Minister.
Thank you, Mr. President.
And Recreation. I was at a conference, Mr. Minister, on Northern Development, and I and other delegates heard nothing of the very important northern component, which is your area of responsibility, tourism. How can your ministry or the government that you represent, sir, justify the spending of $164,000 of taxpayers' money directed for the benefit of high-price consultants, and yet omit the very real possibility of tourism, the very important component of tourism as it affects Northern Ontario?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm very pleased to reply to the honourable member because in the last year there has been a renewed spirit in the tourism industry in Northern Ontario. One thing I have found out about the people in Northern Ontario, they're so interested in the tourism industry now, they want to talk at 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and I think that is wonderful. Mr. Speaker, one of the reasons the meeting yesterday for these 2 days in Sault Ste. Marie were to discuss some of the problems of Northern Ontario. The tourism industry was represented there. But I'm pleased that because of the work of our ministry and and the cooperation of the people of Northern Ontario, you will note that it has been a banner year for tourism. Just read the North Bay Nugget. It's been one of the best years ever for tourism because of the work of this government.
Supplementary. Order. Supplementary.
Thank you, Monsieur le Président. I'm not interested with platitudes dealing with the Ancien Régime, Mr. Minister. I'm more interested in having specifics in terms of coordinating efforts. What precise mechanism and specifics are you willing to offer the entrepreneurs of Northern Ontario to give them the tools to deliver the real industry that tourism could be?
Minister? Mr. Speaker, last April we started in Northern Ontario with our series of roundtable conferences. 6 were held in Northern Ontario, well attended, and I believe that all the members from the North were invited to attend those. As a result of the roundtable conferences, we announced in Sault Ste. Marie in July the 4 initiatives for Northern Ontario. They've been well received. The people in the North are enthused about those, and as a result, that is why we have seen a banner year for tourism in the North.
New question. The member for Sault Ste. Marie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a question for the Minister of Energy about high gasoline prices in Northern Ontario. This is one issue the consultants did get right in their study when they reported the gasoline is, on average, 5 cents a litre more in Northern Ontario than Southern Ontario. Northerners, at the same time, have to drive longer distances and have to transport the goods and services in so many instances from Southern Ontario to the North. How can the North be competitive when we're saddled with that higher cost burden? And when is the Minister going to do something in reaction to his own study on this issue?
Good question. Good question. Mr. Speaker, of course it flows from the question that we are going to do everything we can to encourage and do things for Northern Ontario that would relieve the pressures of transportation and distances traveled. But we are not the only players in this game. The federal government plays a major role. And one of the things that has happened with the federal government is when they purchased Gulf, they reduced the amount of competition. And I have to tell you that it's about time if the federal government wants to participate in a major way in refineries and the whole issue of gasoline and gasoline prices, that they have stations right across Canada. And it would appear to me that Ontario, that the outlets of Petro-Canada are higher than any other stations in the province of Ontario. So you see, the players down in the Ottawa, the kissing cousins of these members across the way, have a very important role to play.
Order. Order.